day it is. I hope that this is a time that finds you well and in good health. What I'm going to do here is we have a little cast iron stove. This is a little cheap cast iron stove. There's a little oil on the top. From the tender, this is tissue paper that we laid last night's fried chicken on. So it soaked up a little bit of grease. I don't throw those in the trash. I keep them just for this. Now, you'll notice the method that I'm using is a little different than most people. I've got my small logs for the starter. This is my starter wood, and then I'll move up to my larger chunks of wood. And you can see that this is not a very big stove. It's only got about an 8-inch opening here, or 9 inches from side to side. So what I've done is I've cleaned out the box. I like to leave about 1 inch of ashes in the bottom of the box here when I clean the ashes out. This works for a good heat retention in the oven, or stove I mean. And then I've split up some small tinder called kindling, and I've placed it long ways, and then I've taken the smaller scraps and laid them on top, and I'll go from left to right, and then I'll go from front to back, and I put 1, 2, 3. So then I put the little tiny pieces, and then all the coals that are left over. Now these are great for getting a wood stove going again. These little pieces of wood that are still coal are some people call it coke. Now, what you do is you have this on the top, and the reason for this is this has a little draw pan in it. So this stove does a reburn. So the air will come in and circulate from the bottom of the stove is where the air comes in. So you can't really close the draft down 100% on this stove. So what I've done is made this front here so that I can actually close these little draw holes that have no damper for them. I made these little aluminum foil plugs, and I just stick them in there. And then when I do that, I can close down the draw, and this thing will pull almost all night long through this little crack right there, and I can have a slow burn all night long and keep the house nice and toasty without getting hot and sweaty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and light this stove up, and I'm going to take you through the steps that I do whenever I'm lighting it up. I'll take this peanut oil soaked paper towel from draining last night's chicken, and I stick it under the tinder that I have on top of the logs. And the theory behind this is, well, it's actually proven, the hot embers fall down on top of these logs, and these logs start to burn, and they burn and put off more heat. Now this is a little bit of green wood. It hasn't been seasoned quite long enough, so there will be some creosote buildup. I have to go get another load of seasoned wood to finish getting me through this year. We've been splitting our own wood this year, and this is some that I bought this summer, and it hasn't really had time to dry. To prevent creosote buildup in your wood stoves, it's important that you use fully seasoned wood in your stove. If you hear it sizzling, then it has too much moisture, and that moisture is going to cause creosote buildup, and it also carries most of your heat up the chimney. So that whenever you do build a fire with green wood, it doesn't get the home or the structure that you're trying to heat as warm. Okay, so that's enough talking about it. Let's light the fire. I had to maneuver away so that I can hold my little lighter stick. I like to keep a couple of sticks around, and these get nice and dry and easy to light. And then I'll just hold the lighter on here until it lights up. And once I get that to light up, I'll simply stick it in here and attempt to light my paper from the back. If I can get to it. And then I'll rub the fire off the end of it so it doesn't smoke up the house. And this little bit of oil kind of slows the burn of the paper down some, and it puts off a little more heat. Well, what you want to do is you want to get the heat coming up to heat this top pan up here. And once you heat this top pan, the draft on the stove starts to function better, and it'll actually draw the smoke out. Now I've got the door wide open right now, and I'm just letting this burn up. It may smoke up the house a little bit because, like I said, this is some fairly green wood. I was just going through a few tips to try and help anybody out if they've been having trouble building fires and somebody showed you put all your tinder on the bottom and then smother it out with a big heavy log. I never liked doing that. It's not how my great-grandfather taught me to do it. This is. And if you'll notice, the tinder is already starting to ignite, and what happens whenever that ignites is it continues to draw from under the tinder. So it's self-breathing. It'll actually fuel its own little fire up and keep it going. I think that needs to be a little further in, so I'm going to give it a little more push. I may have messed it up. I'm going to leave it alone before I put it out. I had it burning and started pushing and poking. That's one thing that messes up a lot of fires. Poking them before they get going. Sorry for the shaky camera. There is no tripod that'll sit on the hearth of the wood stove. I don't think that's going to burn. It's going to go out on me. Maybe somebody snuck around behind me with my chicken grease napkin and wiped off a wet table or something. Didn't tell me about it, so I'll go sit down and do paperwork at the table and have a big greasy spot. Let me check that paper. Well, come on, baby. Burn for me. Pull that paper out. I think I got it wadded up too tight. Smothering itself out. Let's see if we can make it flatter. We'll try that one more time. Yeah, I had it wadded way too tight. I'm not going to edit it. I'm just going to let it burn. Or fail. So maybe this will be wood stove fails. Who knows? But it's relatively warm right now. We're about, 15 degrees Celsius now. So it's not really cold in here. I just cleaned the stove out. We're calling for some really cold weather in the next few days. We're going to be down, I think in the 20s Fahrenheit. So we're going to be nice and cold for the next few days. So we got to go get a little truckload of super dry wood and get it all burning. And if you can see this little spot right here on this stick, you can see the little bubbling of water. That's how wet and green with sap. I mean, this wood was cut in July. Had a storm blow a few trees down this year. So you need to thoroughly dry your wood before you try to burn it. And rule of thumb is have all of your wood for the winter to come split and stacked in cords before Easter morning. So here it is. Last week and a half of January, you should have all your wood already split. Now, if you'll notice right around these coals here where they're already getting hot again, and I can actually hear the stovepipe starting to have its movement and its crackling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the door down just a little bit. Once it all gets going. And then I'll just let it burn, and then you get some ashes down. You'll notice that this little log right here, she's trying to get some hot coals on her right there already. So it'll light, it'll burn. The little flames will flicker around. It'll just keep burning. It'll keep drawing on itself. And as the ashes and hot coals fall down on top of the logs that are there, they'll go ahead and get it going for us. Now when you're gathering wood, even though it's wood that's from a tree that's fallen and laying on the ground, it'll still have moisture in it. That wood needs to dry for about 6 months before you put it in your stove. You can hear the hissing I was talking about coming from this little green piece right here. You see all the moisture that's run to the end as it's pushing the sap out of the stick. Now this is from heartwood. I just split a chunk of wood like this one right here to make all of this. I used a dead blow hammer and a hatchet, and I split all this down, and then I chopped it into short lengths. I chopped it in half from what I used. And once you hear that crackling sound, and now a little bit of smoke's trying to wolf back out the door here at me, so I'm going to shut her down a little bit and let her go ahead and burn. And what I'll do is I'll just leave it with the lock right here to hold the door open just that little bit, and then it'll start to burn. And then I'll have to put my plugs in the holes, and then once we put the plugs in the holes, it'll choke on down a little bit. Thanks for viewing. Like, subscribe, follow us here on YouTube.